the hidden ones. They shine brightest during the night. The hidden ones. Now I need you to understand that hidden is not about being visible to others, but it is not inclusive or only about being seen by others, but it is not being exposed or revealed to others. In other words, you see me, but you don't really know who I am. You see me, but you don't know what I've gone through. And so in other words, we come to church dressed up, going through the motions, but the truth of the matter, we've been hurt in our lives. And so then we've hidden ourselves in attempts to keep from being hurt again. We've hidden ourselves because we don't want to be vulnerable again. We've hidden ourselves so as not to be used again. We've hidden ourselves so as not to feel again, to feel the shame, the guilt, the rejection, the inadequacy, the shame, the anxiety, the pain that comes with being hurt. We have hidden ourselves because we don't want to feel worthless, useless, hopeless, or meaningless. This is why we've hidden ourselves. We've hidden ourselves because we're trying to prevent exposure. You say, why? Why would I hide myself? Because exposure, Pastor McNeil, attracts criticism and attacks. Exposure forces me to invest time and resources into painting a picture of who I am to those who are looking to benefit from my presence. Exposure forces me to paint a picture of who I am even to those who are not looking to benefit. In other words, in my mind, I believe that lesser is better. The less you see of me, the better off I'm going to be. The less I really confide in you, the better off I'm really going to be. So if I hide, I can prevent the attacks, the criticism, the agony, the anguish, and the anger. So we come to church and we really say, let me stay hidden, man of God. Let me stay hidden, God, because I don't want to deal with any more criticism. I don't want to deal with any more attacks. I don't want to deal with any more pain, God. Let me hide in the back. Let me hide in quietness. Let me hide in inconsistency. I'm hiding in defiance. I'm hiding in rebellion, not open rebellion, because we're too spiritual for that. But we hide in delayed or partial compliance. We hide in selective participation. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to understand there's a fine line between appease and please. There's a fine line between pacify and satisfy. There's a distinct line between complying and conforming. And so then, because the line can be misconstrued, many of us think we're pleasing God, when in actuality you're only appeasing Him. Many of us think we're satisfying what God has mandated, what He's asked for us, but in actuality we're only pacifying God. Some of us are even thinking that we have conformed, when in actuality we're only complying because I'm forced to do this. And as a result, we say, this time, I'm going to take charge of my life. I'm calling the shots. This time, I will not be a fool, be made a fool, or treated as a fool. This time. And so then what we realize, inadvertently, we've made a decision to settle for a normal life. That's right. When you decide that you're going to call the shots on your life, what you just said is, I'm going to settle for a normal life. What you decided is to hide in normalcy and forego the extraordinary and greatness that it can only found in Christ. Even some of you even said, I'm going to live my best life, but you cannot live your best life except in Christ. And so we're trying to live our best life outside of Christ. And so then we cannot settle for a normal life and expect to do extraordinary things for God. I'm going to say that one more time. We cannot settle for a normal life and expect to do great things for God. Because in as much as we sang the song, God, we serve a big God, then God should do great things or big things through us. But how can a big God do big things through us if we decided to take our own life in our own hands? And we've done so because we said, Pastor, the time I submitted before, the time I made myself accessible, I got hurt. And so this time I made a decision that no longer will I do so. And so then we don't realize that we've hidden ourselves. We've cloaked and camouflaged ourselves because we don't want to be hurt again. We don't want to be used again. We don't want to be abused again. We don't want to be rejected again. We don't want to be lied on again. We don't want to be mishandled again. We've decided to hide ourselves because it's better to be hidden. Because when I'm hidden, I don't get strange looks at me. When I'm hidden, nobody's criticizing my work. When I'm hidden, nobody is justifying themselves and trying to position themselves above me. So I believe that it's better, Brandon, for me to hide myself, because when I hide myself, you don't worry about me. When I hide myself, you don't talk about me. When I hide myself, you don't come at me cross-eyed. When I hide myself, I'm not hurt again. And so then God wants us to be elevated to a place where we can be used in a mighty way, but we have to come out from being hid. We cannot remain hiding in lukewarmness. I wish I had a church to preach to in this house, that many of us have gotten complacent because we're doing just enough, because that means that I'm satisfied the status quo. But the truth of the matter, there's greater in you. And so then you have to do to what's your potential and not allow your circumstances to dictate your potential. You have to allow yourself to move to a place where you're not afraid of failure. I wish I had some folk that wasn't scared. I'm tired of being around a bunch of scary folk. Scared of what folk gonna say. Scared of what they think. Scared of how they gonna look at you. Look at me, baby, but you don't understand what I've gone through. God has invested something in me, and how dare me hide under a bushel. You got a bunch of scary folk in the church because we scared of what folk gonna think. That if I stand up and shout, what gives her the unmitigated gall to shout, knowing that she was just at the club? Well, baby, she might have been at the club last night, but you had your night.
Amen. Come on.
No, we get in the church, and so then we get judgmental, and so now we got a bunch of hidden folk in the house of God. We have a bunch of scary folk in the house of God, not scared of the enemy, but they're scared of you.
Come on. Wow. That's good.
This is why Jesus told his disciples, why would you fear a man who has no control over your destiny? I'm paraphrasing. Why would you fear an individual who does not control your purpose? Why would you fear an individual who does not control, precious, your blessings from on high? And so then we find ourselves secluded and hid because we are afraid. We're afraid. We know, we see, we've heard, it's been prophesied. We've gained revelation that God wants to do mighty things. I see the gifts in my life. I see what God wants to do me, but God, I'm afraid to step out into the water. I'm afraid to launch out because, God, I'm afraid of what people will say. God, I'm afraid that the last thing that happened to me is going to happen again. And so many of us are hiding in the church. We're hiding behind each other. We're telling each other, hey, you go first. No, you go first. No, you do it, then I'll do it. You go ahead. And so then nobody is willing to launch out. Nobody's willing to step forward because we don't want to be hurt. We don't want to be criticized. criticized. We don't want to be talked about. We don't want to be persecuted. We don't want to be laughed at and ridiculed. We don't want to be mocked. We don't want nobody to bring up our past. We don't want nobody to look at our issues. We don't want nobody to know our shortcomings, our faults. And so we stay hidden. Come on. We stay hidden in the church. And so then we look to only the man of God is the only one who's supposed to step out. When in actuality, God has called each of us. Each of us to move beyond mediocrity. And so then we cannot move to this place unless we come out. God is not going to elevate you in hiding. I'm going to say that again. God is not going to elevate you in hiding. And so then what completes your healing is to show yourself. Because if you've been healed, then you ought to live like it. If you've been healed, then you ought to run like it. If you've been healed, you ought to praise like it. If you've been healed, you ought to work like it. If you've been healed. And so then what signifies the fact that we've been healed is that we're able to show ourselves. The fact that we've been healed signifies that no longer what I've gone through is a prisoner for my life. I'm no longer captive to what I've gone through. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I've gone through some stuff. I might not look like it. I got a smile on my face today. I got on a nice suit. I got on a nice dress. But don't get fooled. Don't get it twisted. I've gone through some things that have been humiliating to me. They have been embarrassing to me. They have made me feel guilty and shameful and remorseful and regretful. But make no mistake, if I'm healed, then I ought to come out of hiding. I want you to look at the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 8, look at this verse. Verse 47, it says, and when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched Jesus. I want you to understand that this is the text about the woman who had the issue of blood for 12 years. We know that in this account that she went from physician to physician seeking to be healed. And so the word had gotten out that Jesus was passing through. And so then here's the thing that I want you to find out in this text. That if you're going to be healed, there's sometimes you have to chase the healer. Because it is your desperation that signifies that you have an expectation for a miracle in your life. Many of us want a miracle, but we're not desperate enough. I wish I had some folk to really preach to in the house. That if you're really desperate for a miracle in your life, then your desperation ought to show forth. That means what you're saying, man to God, then I ought to be willing to do something that I ordinarily would not do. And so we find that this woman was so desperate that she's willing to press her way through a crowd, through a multitude of folk, and she said within herself, if I could but touch. I don't need him to pray over me. I don't even need him to look at me. Just let me touch him. I wish I had some folk that would come into the house of God and say, God, you don't have to say that. Just let me touch you, God. God, just let me touch you with my praise. Just let my worship touch you, God. Just let my hands lifted up touch you, God. And so the woman wanted to be healed. And so she said, if I could but touch, if I could get to a place in my life where I could get beyond else to do. I wish I had some folk in the house that have ever gone to God and said, God, I don't know nothing else to do. I done tried this, I done called her, I done called him, I done fasted 3 days, I done threw oil all over my house, I done quoted that scripture and that scripture. And so God, now I'm at a point in my life, I don't know what else to do. And so that's when God says you're ready. That's when you're ready for a miracle, because now you are conducive for a miracle to show up in your life, because desperation is an attraction. I wish I had some folk in the house that would understand. Desperation is a magnet for miracles in your life. You want a miracle? Show me your desperation. You want a breakthrough? Show me your desperation. You want the uncommon to show up in your life? Show me your desperation. You want the fabulous to show up in your life? Show me your desperation. Because desperate people will do anything for what they want. And so this woman was so desperate. She spent all her time, her money, and she gets to this place and she says, if I could but touch. But here's the flip side of that statement too. In that I just want to touch his hem because I don't really want everybody to know what I need. That's good. Because if I go up to her face to face in the crowd, everybody's listening. This is why some of you don't come to the altar. Because you're afraid that the person next to you is going to hear what you're in need of. And so she wanted to be healed in secret. She wanted to be healed in secret. But when she touched the hem of his garment, the Bible says that Jesus said, who touched me? Wait a minute now. Who has been healed by me? In my immediate proximity, I can't tell. Who was it? And of course the disciples said, Lord, everybody's touching you. He said, no. Somebody touched me differently. Because this virtue has left me. And so then, with Jesus now having stopped, he now says, to complete this healing, you can't hide. You can't hide any longer. And so the Bible says that she now realizes that she could no longer be hidden in the crowd. Even though in the crowd, she looked like everybody else. But she was different on the inside. I want y'all to get that. She was hidden by her physicality. She was hidden by her looks. She was hidden because she had on a dress like you had on. She's hidden because she sang the same song you sang. She was hidden because she showed up the same time you showed up. But there was something different in her spirit, though. This is why you have to understand that you can't get caught up in your neighbor, because your neighbor may not need what you need. And so no matter how dressed up you are, you have to realize that your need is what draws him. And so then this woman wanted to get healed in hiding. Or she wanted to get healed and go back into hiding. Because that's what many of us want to do. We come to God after being hurt, Bishop. And we say, God, heal me. But after we get healed, we want to go into hiding. Because hiding will protect me from getting hurt again. And so then we have a bunch of hidden people in the church. But the healing is not complete until you can show yourself out to God and to the world. If you say you are healed, then you ought to be able to show yourself to God and the world. You say, wait a minute, man of God, what are you saying? guys that I had a herniated disc in my back. And for 2 months, because of the pain of it pressing on my sciatic nerve, it altered the way I did things. But then after, watch this, Kiki, after I got healed, my behavior was still the same.
Yeah. Come on.
I found myself still reluctant to lean over,
Come on.
Come on up.
even though there was no pain in my
Come
back.
on.
Real.
And so many of us have come to church. Many of us are trying to serve.
Yes.
Many of us are trying to pursue relationships. Many of us are trying to pray and walk in our destiny and our calling. But we still have the behaviorisms of an individual who's not been healed.
Amen.
And so if I've been healed, then I ought to be able to show it. But the truth of the matter, because the pain has imprinted in my mind that I have to change my behavior, even when I get healed, my mind is still stagnant. My mind is still stuck in the place of my pain. This is why you have to be careful who you talk to. Because some people are still talking out of their pain. Oh my God. This is why you have to be careful if you're pursuing a relationship that you don't make a decision out of your pain. Because the tendency is to go to the other extreme.
Come on.
Okay, let me talk to you. I'm going to come to your zip code. If you've ever been hurt in the church, the other extreme is stop going to church. I can't get nobody to say amen on that one because they don't want to say it's me. If you've been hurt in a relationship, then the opposite is to forego any type of relationship. And so then we don't realize that we've really hidden ourselves in going to the extreme because we believe that this time I'm going to do something to prevent myself from being hurt again. But if you've been healed, watch. If you've been healed, then you ought to be able to show yourself. Because here's the thing, let me help you with your fear. I got you. You say, wait a minute, man of God. This fear is real. I'm fearful of the same circumstances happening again. So you talk about show yourself. Then I don't want to be a fool again. Here's the thing we have to realize. That by going through the experience, what you now gain is wisdom.
All right.
That you never could obtain without having gone through the experience. Now here's where I got to help you right here. Here's where we have to separate. We have to divide. What part of what I was doing was me and my ego, and what part was God?
That's good.
Because the reason I got in trouble wasn't God. It was something in me. It was something in my ego. It was something in my desire. It was something in my philosophy. It was something in my ideology. It was something that was contaminated in me.
That's right. Ooh, that's good.
And so then when we don't realize, we take it out on God's part. When his part wasn't the part that got you in trouble. This is why God is asking some of you, what have I done to you? Why are you treating me this way when all I've done is bless you? Why have you run away from my house when all I've done is taking care of your house?
That's good.
And so then I want to get healed. Then it won't be complete until I show myself. Because the showing of yourself signifies that I've been healed physically and emotionally. But it also says that I'm now delivered. Watch this. I'm delivered from the guilt and the shame of what happened. This is why it's so important that we have to deal with not only the emotional scars that happen and the physicality of what happened, but I also have to stop beating myself up. I have to stop looking in the mirror and always feeling humiliated and embarrassed. This is why if you're going to be healed, you can't get healed and stay in hiding. Because God wants to deliver you from not only the physical and the emotional aspect of it, but also be delivered from the guilt and the shame of it. Because nobody wants to be made a fool. But let me help you with something. Y'all don't miss this. What guilt does, this is the purpose of guilt. Guilt is simply designed to let you know you stepped out of your consecration.
Come on.
I'm going to help you one more time. The purpose of guilt is to let you know that you stepped outside of your own philosophy.
Yeah, yes.
The purpose of guilt is to make you realize that I've done something that violated my own morality. And so what guilt is designed to do, Aisha, is to bring you back inside. It was never designed to hold you captive.
Yes, Lord.
And some of us have allowed the guilt of what we've done, the mistakes of what we've done,
Yes.
to hold us prisoner and captive outside of our consecration. This is why he says to the prisoners, tell them to go forth.
Yes.
To those that are in darkness,
Yes, Lord.
show yourself.
Yes.
Come back. And so then, here's the thing I want you to see. There are three things I want you to see. Watch this. Because he tells her after she comes out of hiding, he tells her daughter, watch this, Lady Benton. He says, daughter, go in peace, for thy faith hath made thee whole. Now what strikes me, Miss Tracy, is that you have to understand that this account is bookmarked by Jesus on his way to Jairus' daughter's house. And so he's going to see a daughter, and he meets a daughter.
Oh, my goodness. Come on, Pastor.
That's good.
That's real good.
Watch this now. Because in the other accounts, watch this, he never refers to the other women whose faith healed them. He just says, woman,
Yes. Amen.
go in faith. Thy faith hath made thee whole. But for this particular woman,
Goodness.
he does not use that term, but instead he says, daughter. The significance of him saying daughter is because he's trying to snatch her back into the household. Because what transpired in her life has excluded her. And so by the label and the title being saying daughter, it brings on acceptance, God. Because God, I felt that what I'd done would reject me before you. But by the fact that you would call me daughter lets me know that you exempt and excused what I've gone through. Because I know what I went through would exclude me, would push me out, would keep me from being your child. But by the fact that you would say daughter,
Hallelujah.
let me set the record straight. You are still my child.
All right.
Thank you.
I don't care what the enemy is whispering to you. I don't care what your situation and how deplorable or how bad it was. Sister Kathy, you're still his daughter.
Oh, my God. Hallelujah.
But this is what I love about it too. Clarence, he doesn't whisper it. He doesn't say, come here, daughter. Thy faith hath made thee. No. He stands up in the crowd and he says, I don't care if you know about her issues. She's still my daughter. God sees something like that, it ought to embody you. It ought to bolster you. It ought to give you a sense of boldness that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. In other words, if God don't have no problem with it, why should I?
Come on, that's right.
So that's the first thing that struck me was he said, God, he didn't know her. She had only touched the hem. But he says this because he's trying to send an acknowledgement not only to her, but to the crowd.
Come on, Pastor.
So he says, daughter, faith has made thee whole. And he says, now go. Here's the part. He said, now go. That means don't stay here.
Yes, right.
Don't wallow in pity.
That's right.
Don't stay here and want people to feel sorry for you. Everybody's gone through something. Everybody's made mistakes. Everybody's done something that they hate that they done. But now he says, go anyhow. And so when he says go in peace, he's saying, number one, I need you to leave this place of controversy and contrition.
Teach it, Pastor.
I need you to leave this place. He wasn't talking about a physical place, but he's talking about a place that she had resided in mentally. Some of you are living in a place of controversy that only you have the key and the doorway to unlock yourself to come out. But God is saying, come out. But you got to use the key. Oh my God. You got to use the key to unlock yourself to come out of that place because the issue is over. This is why he told her go in peace, because the issue that you had for 12 years, some of you had it for 6 months, for 2 years. He said, is over. It is a chapter in your life, but it's not your whole life. Oh, no. And so then this is why I got to ask you, will you be defined by your trials or your triumphs? Will you be defined by your vices or your victories? Will you be defined by your failures or your finishes? Will you be defined by your defeats or your dominion? Will you be defined by your praise or your pain? What's defining your life? And so when he said go in peace, he said now leave this place. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you've been in this place long enough. You've been in this place long enough. You ought to get tired of being in this place. I come to tell somebody your lease is up. Your lease has been expired. You are no longer able to stay in this place of controversy and contrition. You are no longer, watch this, your deposit has been revoked. I wish I had somebody to preach to in this place. And so he said, leave this place. Tell your neighbor, get up from this place. I need you to get up from this place of partial, watch this, let's go back, of partial compliance. I need you to leave this place of appeasement and get to the place where you're totally pleasing God. I need you to leave this place of pacification and get to the place of satisfaction. I need you to leave this place. You need to get up from this place. Go from this place. And so then he says, when he says go in peace, he's also saying go forth and act as a daughter now. Fulfill your calling as a servant. Now I need you to understand something. Now you had a calling before the issue happened. You had the calling while it was happening.
Come on, Pastor.
You still have the calling after it's happened.
Yes, sir.
And so now he's sending her forth. Now he's saying, go forth and fulfill your calling as a servant. See, some of us want to fulfill our calling. This is why he says go, because you can't fulfill it in hiding. You can't fulfill your calling in normalcy.
Yes, sir.
You can't fulfill your calling in consistency. See, I wish I had some, one of my spiritual daughters, I sent her a text the other day, and I told her this. I said, you're only limited by your own limitations. And so then if you're going to be extraordinary, you have to forego normalcy.
That's right. Oh, have mercy.
You can't be great in ordinary. Some of us want to be great in ordinary.
My God. Talk to us.
And so then this is why he says, go forth now. I've broken the shackles off of you by labeling you as my daughter. Now go forth. And then the third reason why he says this is because he's now saying, I need you to apply this dismissive word for the rest of your life. Oh my God. Oh my God. In other words, he wants her to understand. Know that anything else related to this situation is unworthy of consideration.
Say that again.
I need to help somebody in the house. The reason he gives this word, Demetrius, is because he said, I want you to get this. Because there are going to be some times where people are going to bring up your past. There are going to be some times when the enemy is going to whisper your past. But I need you to take this word and apply to it and signify that whatever it comes up that is unworthy of consideration.
Come on. That's right.
This is why you have to hold on to the word of God. Because time will elapse and people are trying to bring up what you've been through, what you've done, the mistakes. Even your own conscience, your own memory will sometimes go and grab things and bring it back to the forefront of your mind and try to bring you back to that place where you're depressed, oppressed, and suppressed. But you have to go and say, oh, excuse me, I got a word from my Father. And the word that he gave me was that I'm his daughter. The word that he gave me that I'm chosen, that I'm a royal priesthood, that I'm the head and not the tail. The word that he gave me was that the secret things of the Lord belong to the Lord. But me being his child, there's some things that are revealed to me. In other words, what he's saying is, I need you to take that word because there's so much dunamis power in that word that whenever situations come up, whenever thoughts exalt themselves against the word of God, you don't need no imagination, you don't need no prophet, you don't need no minstrel, you don't need the pastor. Just take the word and go. That's all you need is the word, because I dismissed you from that situation. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, that class has been dismissed. I know the kids just got out of school, and you know I was more excited than they was, because what that meant was that not only was school over, Satan, but one thing you got to understand is when one thing ends, that means something else got to begin. I wish I had some folk to preach to, that when God says, apply this word, because that situation is now over, that means another season, another situation, another set of conditions is about to show up in your life. But all I need you to do, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, whatever you do, you need to go in peace. Look at your neighbor and